In Be the Glitter, we talk about tough topics with giggles and leave inspiration that sticks. In this episode, I interview the queer travel influencer Conor Edwards. Listen in to his brave story and brilliant philosophy on life.
Welcome, Conor, to the Be the Glitter podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much, by the way, for having me. I'm really
Thank you so much
excited
for being here.
it's
Yeah.
always exciting, to do a podcast, especially because I used to be on the other side. I used to be a podcaster. So now if I get any opportunities to be on the other side of that, it's always exciting for me and getting to meet new people all around the world. So thanks so much for having me.
Oh, that's great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, what your new venture is now that you're on a new venture, and explain what that does for you and everybody else, especially in these times.
Yeah, so for me, I'm originally a small town guy from a little sheep town, I always say, near Wales. And I grew up there, and I was someone, even as a kid, was always very creative. I always was on YouTube creating songs when I was in school even. They make me cringe now because they're on there forever and I'll never be able to take those videos away because I lost the account. Well, that's a whole other story, but I knew that this time was not meant for me from a young age, because navigating my own queer journey and what it came with growing up in a family where my dad was not, well, to put it bluntly, a homophobic father, and my mom very religious. So I wasn't embraced when I came out originally at 17. I went kind of back into the closet, and I was always looking kind of for my escape route. Back then, it was like maybe it's going to be in music or something, but I did marketing and studied that. And with marketing, what happened pretty much is when I left university, I did what often happens where we say we're going to take a year out and just try a year in Spain teaching. And it's never a year. Anyone who's been to Madrid or Barcelona and tried Spain out, usually we go with the mindset of, I'm just going to try for 1 year, kind of like a gap year after uni, see what happens. 10 years later, I moved to Madrid in 2016. It was the best thing I ever did because although I started in teaching, I went more into marketing roles there, and I really got to start my own queer journey because I felt like I was living, but I wasn't living authentically when I was growing up in my town. I was always, as we discussed before, recording, having to mask, having to grow up in this environment where I was watching every move. And so being in Madrid, I went on this real journey of exploration, community, and I just started to travel and do everything that I'd always wanted to do. In my head, I was only, bear in mind, 25 at the time, but I felt like I was on this rush. Like everything I've missed so far in my life, I want to do. So I'm going to go to the World Pride. I'm going to travel to Berlin. I'm going to go to Valencia and Barcelona and all these places. And I've really built up a great friendship circle through doing that and gained this love for travel. But at the same time, as I was settling into my lifestyle in Madrid, the pandemic happened, and we all know that brought its own obstacles. And I found during the pandemic, I was working still a lot in the teaching field, but on the marketing side. And after the pandemic, I think, like many of us have had, after all those days, long time thinking, long time in the apartment, kind of just searching for something different in life. So that's how I ended up leaving in 2022 to Barcelona. And when I went there, I moved into the kind of fintech industry. And it just still was not bringing me joy in a fully authentic way because I just had this urge that I wanted to do something for myself. And I was always trying to find doors and openings into queer travel, but it something would always not quite align. I'd be like, maybe that's for a reason, but in my heart and in my gut, something's telling me I have to do this for myself. But the years kept going by, and I ended up working by last year in a holiday company and getting a lot of experience on the copywriting side there. And from that, I was like, I'm just going to learn everything I can from this company this year, really study. And one day, I think it was this year around March, was just like, you know what? I'm just going to make a logo, make a name, and this summer I'm going to get my camera and just start documenting everything I've been doing in queer travel, like every destination I've ever been so far, everywhere I'm going, and just start to build on that because when it comes to, especially in TikTok, which is the main place I put out like the Wandering Gaze and travel content, there's a lack of short form content. Like when we think of, say, you're going to Madrid for a queer holiday, you want to know the best local businesses, you want to know which events are on, the best parties to go to, all the queer events. But it's very hard to find. You're going through five, six, seven websites, YouTube vlogs. I wanted to do, I always say like travel content in a minute that shows everything, everything possible. And having ADHD, talking fast, that's quite easy for me to do. And so basically at the end of April, that's what I started doing. I went back from Barcelona to Madrid, then Maspalomas Pride, then Film Manchester, then Brussels, then Cities Pride. And I've just been documenting that ever since. And I think it resonates with people because as queer travelers, we want to know what's happening now. We read on the
Yeah.
news one thing, but it's a different thing to actually be there. And especially now with everything going on in the world, things change week to week. A great hotel that's offered as queer friendly maybe last year and on the website, maybe something's changed. How actually is it? I'm not with a partner, but how do I feel comfortability wise walking in the street, like if I was holding a guy's hand? And so all these little things, I'm either interviewing people when I'm in the destinations, filming everything myself, filming the Pride events, the hotels, everything I can film to kind of document the full scale of the destinations I'm visiting. So it's been really fun so far. And I think after the pandemic, especially, I've kind of been in that mindset of if I just want to do something, like, what is stopping me? I always used to think, oh, it's not going to be successful. Will anyone care? That negative self-talk. But nowadays, I'm like, you just have to. Everyone starts with 0 followers. Everyone starts with their first video. Everyone starts with $0, euros, pounds in any business, whatever they're doing. And so you have to just start. And it sounds like the simplest thing to say, right? But it's really hard sometimes to make that first move because it's very vulnerable.
Hey, thanks for listening. If this conversation resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us reach more people who need to hear these stories.
Oh, you are speaking to my heart right now,
Yeah.
Conor. Literally, the reason this
Yeah.
podcast even started was because so many of the people I was connecting with through the LGBTQ professional networks, multiple different ones,
Yeah.
in our virtual calls like this, they're just like, gosh, Laura, it's like we're on a podcast. Like, you should
Yeah.
have a podcast. And finally, after so many pushes, I reached
Yeah.
out to a friend of mine who's just always willing to do anything, Yolanda Brown, and we just
Yeah.
kind of had a pilot. Like, let's just try it. Let's just wing it, see what happens.
Yeah.
We didn't have a name or anything. The name came out through that session, and
Oh,
we're
so
like, here it is.
yeah.
Be the, because she was saying, this is a
Yeah.
great way to talk about tough topics with giggles. And I said,
Yeah.
and glitter. And she's like,
Yeah. I love
yes,
that.
be that. Be the glitter. Be glitter that sticks
Mm.
on you. Find it 4 months later.
Mm.
It's like,
Yeah. Yeah. It's so nice though to look back, isn't it? And you think, you just try something and then it
yeah,
sticks and it's like you get rolling and then you just find joy in it. I mean, I think when you find that joy in whatever you're doing and it just
that,
feels natural and organic, it's amazing the places it can take you.
yes. And that's it. I am sick of being trapped in a scarcity mindset or being coerced into being in that very competitive comparison, um, as a professional salesperson for a gajillion years, sometimes for Fortune 500 companies,
Yeah.
you'd get, there was just so much competition, and it was like we were fighting dogs, and they were like egging us
Yeah.
on and starving us just so we could bite harder and salivate even more. And it was like, wait a second,
Yeah, I
what's
know.
the
It's like,
purpose of my life again?
yeah,
Like, so yeah, the joy and just saying, you know what, screw perfectionism, because nothing's ever perfect. Just start.
yeah,
Easier said than done. But if you can find that little tickle to just go ahead and jump in, once you
yeah.
find that joy, it's contagious.
Yeah, it's so
Really.
true. And it's letting go. I think when we all start something, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves for it to be perfect, and we will analyze, like my first videos, for example, are terrible, but some of
But
them
now
got
that's
more views
precious.
than, yeah, it's like some of those videos got more views than the ones that I'm really putting a lot of effort into now. And it's like, I think we often get, it's so easy to get in that mindset. It's like I always say, don't let the imposter prosper, and I think a lot of us have that mindset. It's very vulnerable putting something out there into the universe. And I always grew up in that sort of pressure cooker mindset as well. Like, I think, especially from working in schools and the education system in Madrid as well, where everything had to be, you couldn't have one grammar mistake, the lesson plans had to be perfect, the kids had to pass all the grades. And so I've had to let go a lot of those ideas with especially being online, video, short form. And I think people are looking for an authentic voice, whether it's with a podcast, online business, TikTok account. Authentic content really shines through nowadays. So people actually enjoy those little hiccups in the videos that often we turn into a pain point for ourselves. Like, oh, that makes me cringe. Like, I can never listen to myself back, for example, any video I put out. It makes me cringe so much when I hear my
I
my
skip
voice and do
past
the
what I'm
caption.
saying and go to
Yeah,
somebody else.
yeah, yeah. But
No, okay, let's talk about this though, because you had such an incredible journey. And you have this wonderful saying, why wonder?
mm,
Wander, right? Or I'm missing some words in there. You've got, how does that go again?
yeah, I said, why wonder when you could wander?
When you
Because
can
that's it's
wander.
kind of
Yeah.
like that was me sort of letting go of the mindset that I used to have. I always used to be concerned about the what ifs. And when we look back in life, it's always those what ifs that we anguish over. And we think, oh, what if I'd taken that chance? What if I'd gone on that date? What if? And I decided to just instead, I think, I don't know what it was, something just inside me this year was like, I'm just gonna start taking those chances and just doing the things I want, because I wasn't getting the satisfaction in the workplace. I wasn't feeling even in Barcelona where I was living, I felt like it was not where I was meant to be. I wasn't in my happy place. Something was missing. I was searching for something. And I just knew I had to do something for myself, whether it flopped or not, whether it got 0 views or 1,000, whatever it was. I knew that it was time this year to start shifting that mindset and getting out of my head. And as someone that's always grown up, kind of second guessing everything that I do, letting go of that mindset is definitely it's a challenge, but it's been fun this year, kind of month by month, just learning to roll with things. And yeah, I think I'm not sure what it was specifically, if it was more a build up, but just something switched in me this year, and I was like, it has to be now. I can't spend another year in Barcelona in this job. I'm not getting the opportunities that I want. I was fighting so hard for companies. I was interviewing like every day on top of my job, for example, trying to get into these different companies in Barcelona and Madrid and not getting the jobs. And I was like, with the imposter syndrome, thinking, what is it? What's wrong with me? Like, and go through six, seven-stage interviews, case studies. I think a lot of people can relate when it comes to creatives, marketing. It's so hard right now with the industries to get a new role for myself. And I just got to the point where I just thought all this that I'm investing into getting back into Madrid, into a new company, it's not working out for a reason. I have to just make things happen for myself. And I just literally the end of April closed that laptop down from the last interview. It hadn't worked out again, and I was like, I'm just filming everything on this trip to Madrid and Maspalomas, and just throwing the content out. And I've just been doing it every day since.
That's fantastic. I just love that. I can relate on so many levels. I so hard on all of that. And good for you. Good for you for taking that leap, trusting yourself, trusting your gut, and seeking the joy over the societal expectations.
Yeah,
because nothing is guaranteed, and
it's so
that's something
true.
that, right? Like you can work so hard to get that job, and then a merger acquisition happens, and you're you're sent back out on the street because you were the latest hire, or
Yeah,
who knows what. But the reality is,
yeah,
when you work for a company, a lot of the times you're just a cog in the wheel. And when
yeah,
you
that's so true.
create your own journey, your own destiny, um, you get to decide to put your heart first.
Yeah, that's so true.
God, that feels good, doesn't it? Like,
It's so important. Yeah, it's so true. And I think as well, like, it's true about like with the expectations and things, I thought going into my 30s, it's ironic, 10 almost 10 years ago in Madrid, I had my own apartment. I was living in the city center. It seemed like I was doing well. I had all the things that I was supposed to have, like that everyone, back home in England was like, you've made it, you've gone to Spain, but I wasn't feeling the joy. I felt like something was missing all the time. Ironically now, I don't have my own apartment, I'm going back and forth in the UK and friends in Spain. I'm kind of documenting all these places and really carving out my own path. And that would have really freaked me out 10 years ago to think, approaching my mid 30s, I'm not going to have my own apartment. I'm not going to be settled. I'm not going to be in a relationship. All these things I was like, have to be tick boxes. But when I got those things in my 20s, I didn't feel the satisfaction. I was making inroads in my career in Madrid, but it wasn't bringing me joy. I moved to Barcelona and that didn't find whatever it was. I had relationships, but I still, something was missing. I had to go on a lot of self-healing paths, I think. A lot of that was unpacking even traumas and things from growing up and layers of shame and environments that I've grown up around, which as queer people, we often grow up in those inwardly or outwardly hostile environments that can be detrimental to our own self-interest. And so
mhm.
a lot of the last decade since I left the UK has been kind of unpacking that. And as I got all those things I thought I wanted, I realized what I actually needed was to go on this journey myself. And I'm still on it every day, There's still a lot of learning lessons. And I think that's important in life to always be learning and growing and evolving. But I think if I'd stayed in the environment I was in, I would have carried on just feeling like something's missing and really regretted it later.
Yeah, yeah. It wouldn't have been sustainable.
Yeah.
And you keep saying that you had to do it for you and for yourself, and you did. And,
Yeah.
I think what you're explaining is a wonderful example of how taking care of yourself helps you take care of others. Because
Yeah.
by you actually taking care of yourself and owning your authentic self, you put yourself out there with all that heart and joy. And that's why you're so charming and everyone's following you like crazy right now, because it is so it's so inspirational to others. And so you are truly helping the queer community and anybody else who wants to even understand how to be a good ally, right? Because, like
Yeah.
you said, where were queer couples going to find in TikTok or even on YouTube, like good resources to have a safe trip in Spain, or let alone in the UK or somewhere that's not on the top of the queer
Yeah.
friendly list. And this map, it is pretty interesting to see that Spain is right up there,
Yeah.
and there's some nearby countries that fall far from that. So it is interesting. What kind of feedback are you getting from people who are following you?
I've actually had, especially on the Pride videos, a lot of moms reach out and send messages and just talk about messages with their children and embracing them. And they really love seeing the Pride context. I really kind of go into these events and show what's happening in real time and a lot of the highlights of that. So that's been really nice because there's a lot of surprising people that reach out. And also, it's really great for community building in a sense that as a solo traveler, it can get lonely sometimes. You know, it's a reality that you go to these destinations and there's a lot of things you've got to think about. You know, I'm thinking about carrying all my stuff and cameras in the street and tripods and all this stuff. But I've actually met a lot of people through doing this that I'll go to a destination and they become friends. And then if I go back, you know, I've got friends in these new places and it's so good for community building because I was someone that grew up very shy in school. I used to be the quiet kid, you know, was masking with my ADHD. I was not the type of person that would approach people even when I moved to Madrid. It was like a long journey that it took for me to go on. I always say, like, outwardly, I might appear very talkative and confident, but I had to let go of a lot of fears and stuff. And I think doing this, it really puts you out there, you know, because sometimes I'll be in the street, tripod, camera, and people will approach and they just come up to you. And it's like, that used to freak me out, you know, random people that I don't know. It's like I was someone always in my head that had to be prepared before I meet somebody. So there's a lot of organic things that can happen with community building. And it's been, like I said, really great. The connections that I'm making and destinations that I haven't even been to yet. I've made friends that are welcoming me, and it's like I have a place to stay. And, you know, when it comes to travel, we all know it can be expensive sometimes. So that always helps. So I think as a community, you know, with everything going on in the world, we always find ways to each other. We always have. We always find ways to lean on each other, bring out the joy in each other, and support each other. And I think it's so important to find other people that champion you and align in that way because it makes whatever you're doing so rewarding. You know, I imagine for you as well with podcasting, getting to reach out to people from the community, it just makes your day feel better when you have a nice conversation, when you meet someone friendly from the community.
Yeah.
And it can be very uplifting because, you know, there's a lot going on in the news and we won't go into that too much, but having that queer joy is so important.
So important. Thank you. And I think that's what is so critical, especially now. Like we were talking earlier, like Pride Month can't be just June. Like we're gonna have to just keep um accelerating our pride
Yeah,
joy through the rest of the year and into next year and all throughout, especially because of what's going on. I think um these 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 perspectives, these amazing stories, showing the resilience and the positive transformation, what um healing can happen through authentic identity, right? Being authentic, finding your authenticity, and finding your purpose. It, all of that needs to get uplifted and amplified because we
yeah,
aren't being heard enough. And I
yeah,
think the more we support each other, but also help allies step in, right?
Yeah.
So are you finding yourself giving advice, like what is your advice for allies, especially when it comes to world travel and queer joy and helping people um, feel safe in general?
I think honestly, as queer people, we want to be able to look forward to a trip without risk and to we there's a lot of little things that we think about when we're going away that say a heteronormative couple person will not think about. And so I think how they can help ultimately is it's just reaffirming for us that we're in a safe space, not necessarily by doing too much, but by just being aware and having that awareness, and like for example, as queer travelers, if I had a partner, I'm thinking when I walk through a hotel, am I going to get looks? Are they talking about me by the swimming pool? All these little things, and these things we're hyper aware of that my straight allies might not necessarily think of. So a lot of the content I talk about on TikTok is just some of those things that I highlight my own experiences and other experiences we have as queer people in destinations. So I think when people find that, it does bring that awareness to them that maybe they wouldn't have thought of otherwise. Like even with my mom, for example, I've had conversations like when I said when I go, to a destination, I'm thinking when I go to the hotel, how queer friendly is it? Like, how comfortable do I feel, in the environment? There's a lot of patterns that can come back from a younger age that happen in destination. And ultimately, we want to go on a vacation and it feel like a vacation, not something where we're having to monitor every aspect of ourselves again. So I'm really trying to champion the hotels, the destinations that really encourage that and really push for the positive algorithm and content in that sense. And really talk to people as well when I'm in destinations. Like, for example, I'll meet couples and I'll be like, how's it been for you staying at this hotel? How is it for you walking around in Vienna as a queer couple? Have you had any incidents or all these little things I'm trying to think about because they are things that subconsciously do creep into our mind when we
Oh
go on
yeah.
vacation, whether we want them to or not. And it's kind of making everyone else just aware of that. I think through making that awareness, it does help in the long run as well, because we want a holiday to feel like a luxury, a good time, a time where we can just let our hair down, celebrate, explore.
Hey, thanks for listening. If this conversation resonates with you, hit that subscribe button. It really helps us reach more people who need to hear these stories.
Yeah. Even if it's not a holiday,
Yeah,
but to, be able to go anywhere, whether it's to our hometown or
yeah,
to any location, and understand that, oh, this is the restaurant to go to. Oh, this is where I should get a coffee. Because look at that. They have a lovely sticker on their window with a progress flag that says all are welcome here. Or,
yeah.
their advertisement in a Far magazine is saying, like, we welcome everybody, and they've got great representation in their images. Inclusive marketing, I think, is so essential, especially if they authentically, genuinely mean it.
Yes, that's
It's,
good. Yeah.
yeah. And I think it's so great to see the companies who are braving that and putting that out there and saying, yeah, we're even recognizing that we've made this now more handicap accessible. And now we've got something for auditory, like I love this now where there's silent dance club events
Oh
where
yeah, yeah,
isn't that
that's so cool.
great? such a wonderful way to be that much more inclusive. And for those who might not understand why that's important, a silent dance club is really great for those who still want to be social, still want to be part of that dancing environment, but sound can be an issue. So you can control your own sound with the headphones. Everyone's listening to the same music. So everyone's got the same rhythm going on. You're all dancing to the same
Yeah,
song,
so true.
but it's just so much more inclusive that way. It's dealing with it's helping people with autism and any different abilities, right? So
Yeah,
I just think
absolutely.
that is so cool that we can be so much more creative. We can celebrate how innovative humans are. And when we can highlight and showcase those brilliant, right? Brilliant brands, these brilliant locations, these brilliant venues, these amazing restaurants for people. We're not only safe for queers, but if they're safe for
Yeah,
queers, they're probably safe for Black people. They're probably safe for Latinas, Asian
yeah,
people, and yeah, somebody who might have any other,
yeah,
put them in
so
a
true.
minority category, you know?
Yeah, 100%. And I think this year, there's been a lot of talk about how so many brands have kind of dropped the ball and dropped out, but we kind of still want to highlight the ones who are showing up now, like against everything that's going on, and really champion them and really say, look, these are the ones showing up and supporting us in these times and against all the noise. The people that show up when it's loudest against us are the ones that I think are really good to highlight and call out what they are doing. And especially what I'm finding as well, like most of my travel has been in Europe through this summer so far, but they released back in May the LIGA, the yearly map of uh, safety and destinations. And so it's kind of going to those destinations. Like, for example, Malta ranked first. So when I go to Malta, which will be later in the year, I want to see why has it been ranked first, and really highlight all the places in Malta, the hotels, the queer businesses, and showcase them to people so when they go there, they can see, well, these are an absolute must to have on your essentials list. And I'm thinking where
Yeah,
else? Belgium, Iceland, actually, although it's not officially in Europe, I say is a highly recommended destination. There's only one queer bar, the Kiki Bar in Reykjavik, but it's the
which
best place.
surprises me.
Yeah, and they've got the Rainbow Street in Reykjavik as well. So Iceland's very underrated. So a lot of those destinations that have been highlighted on the map this year are really great to be checked out. And I think it's important, being from the UK as well, to document as much as possible what's going on in the real time. So I'm back in the UK a lot of the time, and I try to go to as many Pride events, but not just Pride events, visit in cities. Like, it's funny, when I grew up in the UK, there was so many places I didn't go, and then I moved to Spain, and I was like, never been to Brighton, I've never been to Newcastle, I've never been to Scotland, never went to Northern Ireland or to Ireland and Dublin even. So many places that I didn't go. Now I'm wanting to go and check out and see what it's like in the reality. And my experience so far in a lot of the places I've been in the UK doesn't reflect the negativity that I'm seeing in the news. I'm finding still
Fascinating.
a lot of fantastic places, a lot of safety. Yeah, there's been a few. Like, I had a very negative experience in Birmingham at the Pride event there last month, but those do happen sometimes, and it's important to document that too, so people are aware of it, whether it's just a fluke or whatever's going on at the time, just so people have those kind of real-time updates. Because from the news, it's all like the UK dropped from first to 22nd for queer safety. Like, we've seen a lot of horrible things happen in the news, from trans rights over the last few months, and
Yeah.
just continuously a lot of negative talk. So going out and really getting to interview people, going into these queer-owned businesses and hotels and finding out how their experience has been, the shifts that have happened is so important too. And even in Manchester, I was there last week. It's changed so much from 10 years ago when I was sneaking off on the train from my hometown and going out there. A lot of the places that I kind of grew up on have gone now, but there's still a lot of joy to be found. And there's still a real sense of community. It's just, it might be slightly different than it looked, 10 years ago. But I think the great thing about social media, for all its ups and downs, is if you create a really positive algorithm and really align it with your destination and right audience, then you can find those people that are really gonna just bring you a great experience, friendships, community in any destination that you're going to. When I went to Iceland, I didn't know anyone. I didn't expect anything from the trip to Reykjavik. It wasn't planned to be like a gay holiday, but it happened unexpectedly through a lot of people I was chatting to online. And so that's always a nice surprise, I think, when you go to a destination and you're not expecting things one way or the other. And then you see all these amazing, you know, queer businesses, fantastic people. And that's always the nicest thing as a solo traveler, going to a destination that I don't have much expectation on, and that those are usually the trips I have the best time.
Right. Yeah. There's no expectation. Everything is a surprise, and
Yeah,
you hope it's mostly positive surprises.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's like I've had
Magical.
some random stuff. Like I went to Vienna and I ended up finding, for example, the Queer Balkan Society. They do a monthly event called Balkan Can, and it's all Balkan pop music. I don't know any of these songs, but they get together once a month in this old cinema and everyone dances and it's like all these drinks that I've never tried and I can't dance on beat to anything, but everyone kind of no one knew me, but they dragged me onto that dance floor and got me up and about. And that was again an unexpected event. You can find queer joy in the most unexpected of places.
Oh yeah. I think Vienna is underrated when it comes
Yes,
to
yes.
just inclusivity in general. Like it can seem so stiff and posh from the outside, but once you get in there, there's some really cool places that
Yeah.
are wow, so inclusive and amazing with just great energy. Well,
Yeah.
I'm so glad you had that experience.
Yeah, that was so fun. It was worth the heavy hangover the next day.
That's what I would get when I was in Spain, actually.
Yeah, that's what I would say. Anyone visiting in Spain, they don't really measure the drinks. So, one drink is like the equivalent of five in the US or UK.
Oh, and the wine just keeps going. And the next thing you know, you're having a column and
Yeah, it is
you don't know
true.
how many of those you have.
Yeah, that's one thing I learned very fast when I moved to Spain. Like, be prepared for those drinks because they really hit.
Yeah, 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 that's
Okay.
great. So, I would love to ask you who you are grateful for. Like, who do you want to send some gratitude to?
I think honestly, it sounds like such a cliche thing to do, but to my mom, because we've kind of been on a similar journey together in a different way. But me, my mom, and my sister are extremely close now, but things weren't always that way. When my father was in the picture, as a family, we couldn't authentically be ourselves. And the strangest thing, it sounds strange to other people, but the best thing he did was to leave the family. So about 8 years ago, we had this big family drama. My mom and dad got a divorce, but it was the best thing that happened to her, that happened to me, to my sister, because suddenly we could fully be ourselves, and there wasn't this looming dark energy holding us back, and it brought us closer. And I've seen my mom go on her own journey, and my sister as well, finding all the things that we had to dim when my dad was in the picture. And so it was a difficult time going through those things because I was living in Spain at the time and navigating, family drama and all this stuff. But the strength as a family, as a unit of three that we've got now, it's very inspiring to me, and to see my mom, how she's found her voice and found her strength and really been on her own journey. It always encourages me on those days where I've got self-doubt to think, we as a collective, we've kind of followed a similar trajectory, and we're able to be at our most authentic and have that celebrated. So yeah, I think family for me is so important. Like my mom, my sister, also my grandma, she's nearly 88, but she's still a badass and still, really open. And she's always embraced me and my
Oh,
queerness,
that's
which,
great.
like, without hesitation as well. It was never even a discussion point for her. She just completely embraced me from the moment I sort of came out to her, which was really nice because, um, it's always, we never stop coming out, kind of, it's one of those things. Once the ball is rolling, there's always new people we're coming out to. But
Good.
once I started talking about it to her, it's like now I show her my videos and places I've been, and she's like, "Oh, they look so fashionable," and "Oh, I want to go. Oh, take me with you when you go to Madrid," and all this stuff.
Oh,
So,
that is
so
just
yeah, that's been
precious.
really nice.
That's beautiful. That is just so beautiful. And how can we help you? What do you need from who? How do we do it?
Honestly, I think not just with me, but in general with a lot of queer brands, creators out there. I always say, like, there can never be too many of us. We're not in competition with each other. For example, other travel content creators and people on TikTok, I really want to highlight them and show up and repost, like their posts, and everything we can do as a community. There's never too many podcasts, there's never too many travel content creators, whatever it is.
Yeah.
It's not like the corporate world where it is that competition and rat race. We have to, as a community, really make sure we highlight and we champion each other because we all deserve to thrive. We all want that success. And I think that's the most important message I can get across, that if we continue to spread that love and positivity, it can be as simple as reposting someone's post, giving that bit of engagement or just a bit of encouragement. It can mean the world to someone because they might be having an off day with whatever it
Yeah.
is they're doing. And that
Yeah.
little bit of encouragement can just shift their mindset so much. And I think that's been a big shift from corporate, where it often felt like everyone was fighting for the role or the promotion, and there could only be one, and you're in
Yes.
competition in interviews to be the one that makes it.
Excuse
I
me.
think we all deserve to make it. We all want to thrive, we all want to be successful, so we can all champion each other.
It's so true. It's so true. Thank you so much for saying that. I have been saying a lot lately. I think if we all, when we all, not if, when we
Yeah.
all get together and support each other, we're just going to be this power that, this joyful, sparkling power, this big tsunami of positive change that
Yeah,
all these
definitely.
naysayers and homophobes can't reverse. Like we're gonna wash out the negativity. I think that's good.
Yeah, it's so true. And that's why I always say to people as well, keep a positive algorithm. I know it's hard sometimes when we all get those comments occasionally, but I've learned it takes nothing to just at this point completely disarm it, just ignore it. It's like it's a faceless person that you're never going to speak to in real life. And it's so much better to really think who's actually showing up, on my post every day. Who is the people that are always liking, like, let's remember them and champion them. Like one person writing some random negative comment that they don't even mean, it's just rage bait. It's like really tuning them
Even if
out
they
is so
mean it, that's
important.
their problem.
Yeah, yeah. So I think it's learning to brush those things off. And we all have those days when a comment will sting, it's human nature, but those positive comments and outreach really makes up for it. And I do find if you really focus, like I was saying, on championing other people and pushing reposts and shares, positive comments, then it tends to align you with that. Once you engage with a troll, then it's going to show you a few more, and then you're going to get stuck more in that cycle. So there
Positive
are,
algorithm.
but yeah, I'm going to be like, ignorance is bliss for me.
We're building a community of people who empower others through true storytelling. Join us by subscribing and engaging.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'll leave you with this because I think you would dig this. So this friend of mine, he was a surfer and he taught wakeboarding lessons to help people then get the feet skills that they needed to learn kiteboarding. He would say, Laura, don't look down because then you're going to fall down. Look
Yeah,
where you want to go and you'll just naturally go in that direction. And I
yes,
thought, that is just the perfect metaphor for life,
that's
right?
so true. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
I love that. You're just going to focus and look at all the positivity that's coming your way and just keep feeding that algorithm, and it's just going to feed more, right?
Yeah, it's so true. And it's like, even on, for example, LinkedIn, I think can be a really powerful source as well. All the queer groups as well now, like the networking groups, and so many fantastic people met through that. Like I wasn't on LinkedIn until 2 years ago. I only my company 2 years ago I was working at was like, you need to be on LinkedIn. And I was late to the party, but I very much have with my LinkedIn as well focused on having an audience and people that I can really connect with from the queer community and champion and see all their successes as well. And really give that encouragement to them. And I think it comes back to, we all deserve to win and thrive. And it even on the like I was saying at the start, we all start with €0, 0 followers, whatever it is. It's just being consistent. And
Yeah,
I do believe if you show up not only positively for yourself, but for other people, then you get more aligned with positive things arriving into your life naturally that way.
that's beautiful glitter right there, Connor.
Yeah, yeah, I love that.
Thank you so much. And remind us where, what your like hashtags and your tags are and everything. Why am I losing
So,
my words? It's Friday.
so
How do we
yeah,
find you?
so at the moment, the best place, so I'm on the Wondering Gaze at TikTok, but it's with because someone had taken my username already. So I had to put the dot wondering dot gaze and the same on Instagram as well. So and then I'm also expanding from July into YouTube as well. I wanted to really focus on the TikTok market at first, but a lot of people were like, start pushing it out onto all platforms. So I'm very much focused on TikTok, but expanding more into Instagram and to YouTube. But it will be the same everywhere. The wondering gaze, but remember the full stops between each word.
That sounds great. We'll put that in the links in the description to this podcast, and we'll also put a link to the map. So I think people will want to look at that too.
Oh yes, yes, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely a great map. It's a really handy tool every year to know, and it ranks, everything you could possibly need in destinations. And they need to do it worldwide. It's for Europe, but it definitely helps for any travelers coming to Europe, knowing what's going on at the moment, and really highlight, all the places that are doing great as well. Like I was saying, Malta surprised me, but in a great way. And it's
Yeah,
like Iceland, not technically Europe, but it's one of the best places to go, and also Belgium.
yeah. I mean, it shows the whole world is quite a, it, just because you get two politicians going off about, anti-trans and all this fake news about
Yeah,
It's like, the whole world thinks that way.
I know. It's like, but yeah, I think we all, we all can find that joy still in a lot of these destinations and each other, and even simple things for me, like even creating a good playlist can shift my mood for the day. If I've got like going into the weekend, some new songs on a Friday that really just pick my mood up, it can be a game changer. So I think it's just maximizing all the positive things that we can do for ourselves right now, still being aware of everything that's going on, but we deserve to find joy even in these crazy times.
So true. That's what makes us so powerful and resilient. We're magical.
Yeah, so true. 100%.
Thank you so much, Conor. I really appreciate this. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. It was so great to join you. So thanks so much for having me on the podcast. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you very much. And, feel free to subscribe, like, share on the YouTube podcast.
Yes, for sure.
Take care.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Want more behind the scenes content and updates? I send out a weekly newsletter with extra insights from guests like Conor. Link is in the description.